Next from CBS Sports, does a tremendous job and has been doing it for a long time covering the NFL. Pete Prisco joins us. Pete, good morning. How you doing today?
Good. How are you guys?
What's up, Pete?
We could be better if the Eagles didn't, make some horrible decisions at the end of a game, which led to them going 1-1 instead of 2-0. And you have them falling to 18 in your power rankings. What have you seen out of the Eagles so far through 2 weeks that bring you to drop them that low, in your opinion?
Let me first say I'm glad that John's doing a lot better with his health.
Thank you, brother.
Glad about that, John.
Much appreciated, man.
Yeah, so he's always thinking about you, hoping you do better and better every day. So
I'm getting there.
On your progress. Yeah,
thank you,
buddy. Awesome. Back to the Eagles. Remember they used to say greed is good? Well, greed was bad the other night. That was stupid. I mean, I'll just put it out there. I thought it was a dumb decision to throw the football in that scenario. Worst case scenario, if you run it twice, is you got them 50-something seconds and the ball at the 8-yard line. That's the worst case scenario. I thought it was a bad decision. I would have run it twice and then dealt with it from there. As far as the Eagles as a whole, the number that stands out to me, 6.4. It's all you got to do. 6.4. They are getting gashed in the run. And if you continue to play that kind of defense, you're not winning a lot of football games. It's just incredible to me that they can't stop the run. Nothing. And they have all those bodies. They put a lot of assets in the defensive line, and they haven't been able to stop the run. So that's why I'm down. The other part of that is, despite the fact that the offensive line is one of the best in the NFL, Jalen Hurts turned the ball over. And, what's he got, 3 interceptions and 3 touchdown passes? He's got plenty of time to stand back there. It just hasn't been in a rhythm. Now, not having A.J. Brown last week hurt them, but I'm worried about this team in a big way.
Pete, he's got the most turnovers in the NFL since the beginning of last season of any quarterback. And to me, I can't fathom it with all this talent surrounding him, including that offensive line, including all the weapons. That is something he really has got to clean up.
And he has, from snap to throw, he's the most time of anybody in the league, and that's the weird thing about it. And he does have good receivers when A.J. Brown's on the field, and a good tight end, and a good back who can catch the ball out of the backfield. It doesn't make any sense, and so that is concerning. He's got to clean that up, and they're too good an offensive line and too good an offense for him not to be able to move the football consistently and not turn it over. So you look at both sides of the ball, and there are major concerns on both sides of the ball. Here's the other part of it. They went out and spent money on Huff. The best defensive lineman on that team right now is the old guy.
Oh, my gosh.
Graham has played. Yeah, and Graham has been the best of all of them.
And the second best has been this guy named Thomas Booker, who I think was an undrafted free agent. I mean, it's horrible.
It's crazy. You have that Jordan Davis right now. I mean, everybody, look, and I'm guilty. I thought he would develop into a solid player. Hasn't. Jalen Carter still flashes superstar potential, inconsistent. They run, you run the edges. They can't handle that. They're not good run players. But, that was the knock on Huff. He was a situational player with the Jets. He could rush the passer in situations, but he wasn't able to hold up against the run. And their linebackers aren't, Dean, they hit the ball. And, I mean, they turned into him a pretty good player, but Dean's tiny too. So you get bodies on him, it's going to be a problem. It's a major issue when you're giving up that type of run yardage in 2 games. Now, can they fix it? We'll see. Vic Fangio's usually pretty good, but we'll see.
I was about to ask you, can they correct it and how? But let's focus on the offensive side of things. It seems like Nick Sirianni is a lot more involved than what we thought he would be. All off season, he told us that Kellen Moore was basically going to be running the show. We found that out pretty quickly that might not be the case. Is there a way to correct things offensively with Jalen Hurts and with this offense where that's supposed to be the strength of this team?
Well, I thought they got away from Barkley the other night a little bit. I mean, they were running the ball pretty well too,
they had to throw to Britton Covey. They had to focus the offense on Britton Covey.
I don't get it. I mean, he got away from. I would have pounded that guy until the Falcons stopped it, and they weren't going to stop it. So I thought the plan was pretty bad at times the other night, And look, when a head coach gets rid of both of his offensive and defensive coordinator in the same season and brings 2 guys in, that usually tells you he knows there's a problem. The problem is probably going to be people are going to be pointing the fingers at him. So what does he do? You get rid of those guys, and now you put it on somebody else and say, hey, it wasn't me, it was them. And so that's an easy way of coaches trying to, put their head above the water when it's rising to drown them. So I think he's got to get this thing turned around. This is a big year. It's amazing, though. Think about this. And you guys know, what is it, 20 months ago that they were in the Super Bowl? How many months?
February of 23.
And here we are talking about job security with Nick Sirianni, who a year ago, midway through the season, had the best team in the league. And yet that's the way it is nowadays in the NFL. If you don't win, they come after you, and they will come after him if they don't get this thing turned around.
Now, Pete, Pete Prisco, CBS Sports, joining us on Kincade and Salciunas. When you look at all the money that these NFL teams now are pouring into these analytics departments, and then you go and make a decision to say, we don't care about the 40 seconds we could bleed off the clock here. I mean, at some point, has analytics helped? It helped baseball in many ways to lose its way. Is it helping football to lose its way?
Well, here's the problem with analytics, and God, if you say it on Twitter, you get the analytics cults come after you and everything. Here's a couple
caveman, old man yelling at cloud. Yeah, I know.
Right. And here's the problem with analytics, and I've put this out there a couple of different ways. If the ball's inside the 2-yard line, what's it say on the stat sheet? If you're going to the goal line, inside the 2-yard line,
it
says fourth and 1.
Right.
So the data's all done with 4th and 1 yard. If the ball's just outside the goal line, what's it say on the stat sheet?
Fourth and 1. 4th and goal.
Of course. It's not this. It's take it away from the goal line, but put it out in the middle of the field. Do the same thing. It's not the same play. And yet, by the stat data, by the data that they accumulate, it's all done by yards. There's no inch analytics yet. They haven't done that yet. So you can't. That's one problem. The other problem is, how about game feel? Does that matter? Game feel? If you're in a 45-42 game and you haven't stopped them the entire game, and you got a 4th and 4 in your own end, okay, go for it. We get it. You haven't stopped. If it's 10-7 and it's a defensive slugfest, does the chart tell you to do the same thing then? They don't take into account all that, and that matters. And so I think analytics has been, they're good to have. It's good to look at. It's good to reference. But sometimes you just have to really realize where you are in a football game. I'll give you another example. I'm going to go to the Lions the other day. That moron faked the punt in his own end I think it was at the 17-yard line.
Yes.
What's your end game? You get the first down. You still need 30 yards to even get in the field goal range to get points. Your end game with that. It's not worth. If you're on their end and you fake that punt, you get in the scoring range. I get it. What's your end game by faking that punt deep in your own end? There's no redeeming value in that at all. And it turns out he had to go for another 4th down. Then ultimately he got to a 4th and 6 and decided, maybe I don't need to go for this one. And so I just think they don't think it out loud like they normally should. Sure, there's numbers, there's data, but you have to also have a feel for the game.
I'm curious, Pete. We're speaking to Pete Prisco from CBS on the Comcast Business Hotline. You mentioned Jalen Hurts and how he's a little concerning for you. What's your opinion on Jalen Hurts? And I'm not asking for quarterback rankings. Like, think back to your list during the summer where you put him. Is he a top-tier quarterback, or is he kind of a guy out there that you just hope he doesn't make too many mistakes because of all the weapons around him?
No, I think he's in between that. I think he's in between that. Look, you have the win with and the win because of. He's not a win because of. He's not that. There's only a certain amount of those guys out there, and quite frankly, most of the NFL quarterbacks are playing poorly right now. It's bad, but he's not that. He's in between. He can make magical plays. He can really dynamic throws, and then, like you said, he can turn the ball over, and he looks inconsistent. And so I think there's too much inconsistency there. Look, the Super Bowl year, he was fantastic, and everybody kind of rushed him up the ranking tree a little bit, and it leveled out last year. And now this is a big year for him and for that offense to prove that they can get it back to where it was. Sometimes he looks fantastic, other times he looks awful, or not awful, but not good. And I think that's where the maddening part of it is for Eagle fans. I bet the inconsistency must drive the Eagle fans crazy.
Oh, no, we're very patient people, Pete. You've known me a long time.
I used to live in King of Prussia. I know all about impatience.
Ask you this, just quick question. What's more likely? The Eagles right now, this iteration, will end up a 12-win team or an 8-win team?
More likely an 8-win team.
Oh, jeez.
Scary as hell.
You do not stop the run, I mean, I don't care. That is a damning thing for a team. A damning thing. It's demoralizing. Your offense doesn't get into a rhythm. You're not on the field. 6.4 per, what was it, 7 point something the first game? It was 6.4 per rush.
Brutal.
That number, it's the worst in the league. I mean, it's not even, it's three tenths of a yard away from being, from the next one. That's how bad it is. They're terrible right now. If they don't stop the run, they're not going to win a lot of football games.
Pete, we appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Are the Philly fans really mad at me for where I put them? I mean,
we're curious to get your input on.
No, I think no. There were some people who were offended that it was 18 yesterday.
Oh, okay.
That you were 18.
Yeah, but you know what?
But I'm more offended at the power rankings that have them at 6 after the first 2 weeks. I think there should be a drug test.
By the way, you know what? I know Philly fans, and when we grew up there, we were Giant fans when I lived outside there, so I know how they are. My first game ever was at Franklin Field. Philly fans are fantastic, and they're also the most obnoxious in the history of football.
Damn right, man. That's why people love us. Pete, we appreciate it, man. We'll talk